there, family. Welcome back to the Finance for Families podcast, where we talk money in a way that brings families together. I'm your host, Linda Mack. I like to think of myself as that fire that is igniting those much needed family conversations on finances. Now, today we are talking about the emotional side of money. Let's start with the basics, getting to understand that money is not just math, it's emotion. Because behind every budget, every impulse buy, every delayed goal, there's often a deeper emotional layer. And today we want to unearth those layers: the shame, the guilt, the comparison. Now, here's what research tells us. A 2023 study by the Kenya Bankers Association revealed that 7 out of 10 Kenyans feel stressed about money at least once a week. Imagine 7 out of 10. Now, this is not just a statistic. This is a reminder of how deeply financial pressure sits in our everyday lives, from the bills to the debt that we have, to the rising cost of living, to the silent weight of financial expectations. Honestly, money is clearly more than just numbers. And this is not just a local issue. Globally, the Financial Health Network found that over 60% of people associate money with anxiety, shame, or guilt. Now, we can see these emotions run deep. So, in today's episode, let's get to understand the real emotional cost of money. Let's talk on the unspoken pressure they create in our families and our relationships, and how we can begin to heal from them. Because if we don't talk about it, we carry it, and chances are we are not alone in how we feel about money. So let's break down, especially these three emotions: guilt, shame, and comparison. Now, guilt is that little voice that whispers to us, you should have saved more. You shouldn't have spent that much money on takeout. You failed your family by not budgeting better. If you've ever had a situation where maybe you had to dip into your savings fund earlier than you expected, and you get this moment keep being replayed in your mind: I should have planned better. I should have known better. I should have seen this coming. That is guilt. And now, this is the thing. Guilt is very sneaky. If we let it sit too long, it can become financial paralysis. We find ourselves not checking our bank balances anymore. We are not doing budget catch-ups with our partners, with our families. We are now making money decisions from a place of fear and not clarity. So I've been thinking of some of the ways that guilt shows up in our families and how we can be able to counter that guilt feeling. So for parents, it could be that time when maybe you had to say no to your child, something they wanted, they really, really wanted, especially if maybe everyone in their class seems to have it, but they don't need it. So instead of thinking, I must be a bad parent, my child is going to suffer, try thinking, how can I be able to explain this choice, my no, and the reasons behind my no, in such a way that my child will be able to understand, and in that also learn some money values, so that you don't think of it as you failed them, but it comes out that you're preparing them for the choices they will have to make in life. For our teenagers, the young adults, it could be maybe that time that you had really wanted to go into this concert, you've paid for it, and then a week later, before you attend it, you see something way cooler. And now you start feeling guilty, like, I wasted my money. But now, instead of thinking you've wasted your money, understand that that's part of growing up. And maybe then it's to ask, would you do it differently next time? For the younger kids, it's the same thing. Maybe they got their money out of the piggy bank. They went and bought something they really wanted. And then later on, they see something else that they want. But now you're trying to explain to them, because we bought your cartoon-themed watch, we cannot get you this costume until you save up enough money for it. Again, to just take them through those learning curves. Take that as a very good opportunity, as a good teaching opportunity. Get them to understand about the value of money based on how they respond to, would they do it differently next time. For our grandparents, guilt shows up in those moments where they start thinking to themselves, I should have invested better. I should have more to leave to my children and my grandchildren. But truth be told, you did the best with what you knew and what you had. And again, for me, I always say the wisdom that you have now with all those many years that you've been blessed with, that is part of your legacy. So share that wisdom. So you're not late. Your voice still matters. What you say can help shape the financial journeys of your children and your grandchildren. And that's part of your legacy. Because guilt can actually be useful and it can lead to growth. We have to let it open the door to better habits and not shame. Shame is the other one. Shame Now, shame is where we tell ourselves, I am the problem. It's not just about what happened with money. It's that voice that tells you, you are the problem. You are the failure. Guilt says, I made a mistake. But shame, it's a bit harsher. It says, I am the mistake. You find yourself thinking, I'm just bad with money. My family is so far behind, will never catch up. Everyone else is looking like they figured it out. Why can't I? I find shame runs deep, especially among single parents who feel that they should be doing more. Breadwinners in extended families who feel like they can't stretch to meet every WhatsApp contribution, hospital bill, and other family commitments that they feel obligated to contribute to. And even couples who are comparing themselves to other families on social media and wondering why their stories don't look that put together like those other people. And let me just say this, there's no shame in doing what's right for your household. You are not the problem. The problem is the impossible expectations we put on ourselves. And sometimes society also puts. So I encourage us to start speaking to ourselves the way we would speak to someone we love. We would not be telling your child, you're such a disappointment. So we shouldn't say that to ourselves as well. Instead, let's try, I'm still learning. We are doing the best we can with what we have. And this is just a chapter. It doesn't define our whole stories. And that starts to wash away the shame. So for parents, if you've ever felt ashamed because your kids can't have what their peers have, that iPhone or maybe that trip or that fancy birthday, just pause and breathe. Yeah? Your children's memories are not really fully built around those things. They'll remember more of your presence. They'll remember the memory dividends you've managed to put together, however simple and less expensive they are. For the younger adults, sometimes it's tough being the only one when you're out there without the latest gadget. But with time, as you grow older, you will get to understand that money doesn't determine your value. Your worth is not tied to your wallet. You're not behind. You are just on a different journey. For our elders, the grandparents who may be feeling ashamed that you don't have that much land to live, or you haven't set up the children the way you feel others have set up their children and their grandchildren. We've said your wisdom is wealth. So share your financial stories, the wins, the mistakes, so that this younger generation that is listening can learn from your path and not carry the weight of it. When we do all that, we find that we drop the shame and we carry the truth, because all of us, even the ones who feel like they're so put together, are figuring out this money thing. No one has it put together. No one has it all together. Your journey is valid and your family is enough. So let's not compare, because comparison is where we are thinking they're doing better than us. Comparison is the silent thief of joy in many families, and it can start very innocently. You're just scrolling through IG and suddenly you see someone's Dubai trip, and then, oh yes, now they have acquired a German machine, and oh my God, the kids go to this school, and they're attending these international exchange programs. And before you know it, you're wondering, what are we doing wrong? Or why can't we be ahead like them? For us Kenyans, we feel it in layers. When you're trying to keep up with the siblings who seem to be more established, there are those silent judgments being passed over who paid for what, who's a major contributor, whose family always seems to be the best. Or even in our chamas, where the chama members are subtly flaunting their land titles, the things they've imported, the furniture for their homes, or the business expansions that they're going, or even in our WhatsApp groups, we're seeing our friends sharing just a small win, and then followed by this very huge investment or achievement. You start sweating. Comparison is very dangerous. It can cause you to overstretch yourself. You start spending to impress, even when you don't have. It leads to undersaving, because now you shift your priorities from sustainability to visibility. I have to get this thing so that even they can see. Post in that alumni group that you acquired this German machine. Yeah, a small win, but I'm there in my German machine. And the worst of it is it blinds us to our own progress, because a small win, as we may think it is in comparison to others, it is our win, it is our progress. So maybe you didn't go on that fancy holiday, but you had this debt that you had taken for you to complete the purchase of that land there in the village, or maybe for that car loan for your family car. That's a win. That's progress. Maybe you've not managed to buy that house in the leafy suburbs yet, but you've managed to pay school fees for 3 terms straight without a loan. Imagine that's a win. But the minute we start comparing ourselves with others, it erases that. So parents, you may feel the pressure when other parents are arriving there in Range Rovers and everything for birthday parties, but your child will not remember that car. They'll remember you were kind, you were intentional, the discussions we had with them and all that. Shift your thoughts from what do others have to what values am I building with my family. For the teenagers, it's to encourage them that looking rich does not mean that you're financially secure. Your journey might look quieter now, but it's building you for long-term strength. Your season will come. For couples, comparison between families can sneak into your relationships. One spouse might be thinking, yeah, see what so and so did. The husband did this for their anniversary, or the wife has done this for the husband. But every household runs on a different budget and on a different reality. So recenter that conversation on your goals, not at that other couple. For our elders, for the grandparents, you might find yourself comparing your children to their cousins or their peers and wondering why that family is doing better than your family, where their children seem to be more successful than your children, and maybe it is you who didn't do better. But remember, economic seasons differ. So, as the grandparents with all the wisdom, support through encouragement, not those silent competition, because your children's stories, your legacy is still unfolding. I hope today's episode has made us see that we don't know the full story behind someone else's glow up. Their highlight reel is not our failure. So we should not be feeling guilty. We should not be feeling ashamed, and we should not be comparing ourselves to others. Let's not lose our financial footing trying to keep up with other people. Let's celebrate our pace, challenge ourselves, but most importantly, run our own race and get each and every member of our families to anchor their worth on values and not vanity. So for parents, remember, let's create a judgment-free space for us to be able to engage with our children. It's not blaming, but it's building forward together. My final thoughts, shame, guilt, comparison, they don't mean that we are failing. Yeah, they mean that we care. They mean that we are paying attention. They mean that we are human, navigating a complex topic with heart. And the good news is that these emotions are powerful signals that, if followed correctly, can guide us towards healing, growth, and more honest, connected conversations at home. So let's make the second half of the year less about pressure and more about purpose. If you find this episode spoke to you, please share it with someone who you know needs that reminder. And always remember, you are doing better than you think. That's it for today, family. Again, the Finance for Families podcast is here to ignite open, honest conversations about money and investing in our families. Let's get talking and empower each other for a better financial future. Thank you, and see you on the next episode.